everyone, hope you're all doing really well and keeping healthy, and hopefully you're getting better with the lockdown easing off. Right, so as you can tell from my background, I'm not in my usual kitchen and I don't have my usual setup. I actually came to my mum's house for a few days just to stay with her, as she was alone for quite a few weeks due to the lockdown. So I decided to record my class here too, and that's why I had to go out to get all my ingredients, which caused a slight delay. Now if you're wondering what I'm making today, you probably know by now from seeing the title. So I'm going to be making stuffed aubergines, Mediterranean stuffed aubergines. Now I have already made stuffed aubergines in my class once, but the reason why I'm making it again is because I'm using some different fillings, and secondly, a lot of you have not actually attended most of my classes. And I have got a request from some of you to make something to do with aubergines and Mediterranean cuisine. So I thought, why not just make some stuffed aubergines again, but this time I'll be using some different ingredients, and I'll be cooking them in a slightly different way as well. Because one of you messaged me saying that you don't have an oven, and but you want to make oven style dishes using the cooker. So with stuffed aubergines you would bake these, but I'm going to show you a way where you can make them without baking them. Right, so first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up everything, and like I mentioned, because I don't have a my normal setup, which is my camera stand, this video is going to be slightly shorter than my normal videos, because I'll be stopping and starting. So I'll be doing the chopping in the background and then I'll start again. Please do tell me if you prefer it like this, because or if you prefer a full-length video where you see me chopping up everything and sorting like the onions and doing all the procedures as I would normally be doing if I was in the cooking class. If you prefer that, please do let me know, and if you prefer it this way, please do let me know also. So I'm going to get started, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice the onions, I'm going to dice the mushrooms, I'm going to dice the tomatoes, and I'm going to dice not dice the spinach, but slice it really finely, and then I'll be telling you what I'll do next. Okay, if you give me a second. So before I chop up all the other ingredients, what I'm going to do first is cut the aubergine in half, and then I'm going to dice the aubergine, and then I'm going to start sauteing the flesh in a separate pan, and this is just to get half of the cooking procedure done, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so by the time you've chopped your flesh and you've scooped out the inside, this is what it should look like. You don't need to worry about what shape or size you cut the flesh in, because this is going to kind of shrink once you cook it a little bit. Okay, so we're going to put these in separate pans, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do them. Okay, so in one pan, I've got this big pan, and I've put some water in here. So this is about 2 spoons, no, about 4 spoons of water. And what I'm going to do is going to put the aubergine shells or aubergine skins, or whatever you want to call them, in a pot with some holes in it, and I'm going to be steaming these. The reason why I'm steaming them is because I want them to cook and not lose their shape. If I was to steam them directly in the pan, they will go completely flat. And that's the one disadvantage of doing them on the pan. But to be honest, they might look different, but they will taste exactly the same. So don't worry if they go slightly flat, but just to save a little bit of the shape, just use one of these, something with holes in it, just to give it a bit of a steam. Or even if you have a steamer, just steam them. I know some people are like, really? Steam aubergines? But yeah, you can do that. So now I'm going to put the lid on there, and I'm going to let that steam cook for about 5-6 minutes on low heat. You don't want to fully cook it, because you're going to fully cook it once all the filling is inside. On the other side, I've got another pan, and I'm going to be putting some olive oil in here. I'll just grab the olive oil. 1 second. So I've got about 3 spoons of olive oil in this pan, and now I'm going to put the flesh in here, and I'm going to cook that for about 2 minutes. And again, you don't want this fully cooked either. You just want it to slightly shrink in size, because once this is slightly cooked, we're going to mix it with all the remaining ingredients, and then put it back into the aubergines, and then put it back to steam. So I'm going to just cook that for a few minutes, and then I'll show you what it will look like. Okay, so the aubergine flesh is cooked for about 5 minutes, and that's all. I don't need to do anything else. Meanwhile, these are still steaming, and they're actually looking quite good, and they're not losing their shape. You can move them around once in a while, just so every part of it is cooked evenly. Now I'm going to dice all the remaining ingredients and show you what to do next. Okay, so everything's all nicely chopped up. So let me just show you what I have here. I've got 1 whole onion. I've got a few chopped, I was about to say marshmallows for some reason, I don't know why. I've got a few chopped mushrooms. And then here we've got some wholemeal bread. And here's some chopped cherry tomatoes. Now, why did I choose cherry tomatoes? Cherry tomatoes have a much more stronger taste, and because they're not going to be cooking in a curry or anything like that, the taste of the cherry tomatoes is going to remain quite strong, and that's what I want. I want the zest and the acidic kind of taste to stand out in the stuffed aubergines. And bread is just to bind all the ingredients together to give a nice crusty top. If you don't have brown bread, you can use white bread, but why not give extra fiber to your food if you do have brown bread? So this is actually oat bread. As you know, I don't really have that much bread in my normal diet, but because I'm making this for my mum, she likes a little bit of brown bread. So I'm going to be, otherwise if I was making this at home, I'd probably add some oats. Oats gives it a very nice, nutty, crunchy kind of taste. And then I'm going to mix all of this together. And then once all this is mixed together, I'm going to add in the sliced spinach and the grated cheese. And then I've got here the flesh that I've slightly cooked just for about 5 minutes. Till it's just shrinked and slightly brown. And I've taken off the aubergine skins off the heat, but I've kept the lid on. The reason why I've taken off the heat, it's half cooked and the other half is going to cook with the filling inside. And as you can see, by not putting it directly on the heat, by directly putting it in the water, they've still got their shape, which is excellent, which is what we needed. Now I'm going to put the lid back on. I'm going to keep the lid half off because I don't want it to cook any further. I'm keeping that cooker on because soon it's going to go back on. Right, so let's mix up all the ingredients. Let me see if I can do this all one-handed. Right. Okay. So I'm just mixing everything bit by bit. I'm not going to mix it all together yet because I just want all the ingredients to get to know each other. I'm trying to pretend to be a professional chef here with my words. Marry each other, like they would say. Okay. I usually have one of my kids around to help me hold my cameras, but they're not around right now. So, okay. Right, so that's all mixed up. And now I'm going to add in the flesh. Okay, I'm going to get off the camera now. And I'm going to put in the remaining ingredients, mix it all up and show you. Okay, so all the ingredients is all nicely mixed. We've got the aubergine flesh, the tomatoes, the cheese, the spinach, the shredded bread, and onions in here. If you wanted to, you could add some fresh garlic, fresh ginger, any kind of herbs that you would want to. I've just added some basic seasoning, salt and pepper. If you want to add any kind of like sauces in here, you could. Now this mixture is ready. Now I'm going to be using this mixture in the aubergines, but at this point, if you wanted to, you could use this mixture as stuffing in any kind of vegetable, in courgettes, in peppers. You can mix it up with some rice, uncooked rice, and steam it in peppers, and you'll get some really, really nice Egyptian style stuffed peppers, which I'll show you to make one day as well. Or you could use it to stuff in cabbage leaves. That's another what cuisine is that? That's the Egyptian, Lebanese, that's it, Lebanese cuisine. Or you could use vine leaves. If you want, you can take half of this mixture out and freeze it for another time, because this is full, packed with lots of nutritious ingredients. And you don't have to use just the aubergine flesh. You could use courgette flesh. You could use any kind of vegetables. There's lots of Asian kind of vegetables that you probably already use in your your dietary. You could use them. You can use lentils in here as well. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the aubergine skins and I'm going to stuff them. I'm going to stuff them right to the top. because what's going to happen, if I was to put them in the oven, all the ingredients would melt and shrink together. But in the because we're steaming them in the pan, they're still going to keep their shape, but they're going to glue together. The cheese is going to help them glue together. Now you could use any cheese you like. I've just used some basic grated mozzarella. If you wanted to, you could use feta or halloumi cheese, any kind of cheese. You don't have to use cheese if you don't want to. If you want to, you could use a raw egg just instead. So you could just mix a raw egg in here, and that's really just going to help glue everything together. And if you want to avoid, if you're a vegan, you want to avoid the egg and you want to avoid the cheese, you don't have to use either of them. But this is just preferences, because this is going to be a meal on its own, and I'm not serving this with a side of any sort, so I've added a bit of extra protein in here. You could... Okay, so I have stuffed the aubergines with all the filling, and if you can see, let me show you from this angle here, I've stuffed them right to the top. Because I just, oh, this camera is actually really good. I've stuffed them right to the top because I want them to be quite filling. And I've got a little bit of filling left, which I'm going to keep in the fridge and use for something else, for another filling. Probably I'm going to use that for peppers and rice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting these one by one into the pan, into this steamer, to steam again for a further 10 minutes. And our stuffed aubergine boats will be ready. Okay, so the stuffed aubergine has been cooking in the pan for about a further 7 minutes, and as you can see, it's all nicely cooked, and it actually looks so similar than it would do if it was baked in the oven. So there you go. There's an easy way of making this in the pan, and I'm just going to put this on my dish and show you how I'm going to serve it. There we go, and this just smells so good, and I can just tell you it's going to taste so good as well. And I'm going to be serving this with some baby corn, and this is going to be